news. Why are you so optimistic about retail sales this year, growing as much as 8.2%?
Yeah, well, Courtney, I think one of the reasons, and you sort of alluded to it about things flowing into the arms, one of our big assumptions, and you've heard the president talk about this a lot in that last little hit there, we've got so much vaccine, we're talking about giving it to other countries now. Lots of vaccinations in arms of Americans are really the underlying assumption here in much of this. We know that over the course of the last year, consumers have really been powering through the economy. And Bob Pisani talked at the top of the show about those three massive stimulus bills that were enacted early last year. There was another one at the end of the year, the one that was just signed last week, another $2 trillion. So there's plenty to go around in terms of firepower in the economy, and consumers are sitting on $1.5 trillion. They paid down $500 billion in debt. So I think we're on the cusp, as Kevin Johnson said yesterday, the cusp of a great human reconnection, and plenty of that will flow into retail.
You know, the National Retail Federation, of course, has members that are very large, but also smaller members, smaller retailers. And small business has really, really been hurt. What is your expectation, and what are you hearing from the smaller retailers out there about 2021 and their prospects for recovery?
Yeah, Courtney, you're absolutely right. And that was one of the great challenges of last year. I mean, many families, organizations, businesses suffered, but small businesses in particular really suffered, and they didn't have the access to the same kinds of resources. They didn't have the same relationships with suppliers. They didn't have the same ability to reach markets outside of their local market. And so they did get a lifeline in the form of some of the relief that was enacted, the Paycheck Protection Program, of course, especially. And we and a number of other industry groups here are encouraging the Congress and the administration to consider extending the Paycheck Protection Program eligibility later into this year to help those businesses. So I think they'll benefit similarly. Many of us really focused on staying closer to home and supporting those smaller businesses. And the real key here is reopening the economy. And when the economy is reopened, as we see the vaccine do its job, we see more and more Americans getting vaccinated every single day. I think that's going to be a real possibility for these businesses to rebound and recover this year.
There's an awful lot going on in that $1.9 trillion relief package that we just saw the government pass. But I know at least earlier on in the pandemic, the NRF was urging the Treasury Secretary and others to take a look at the retail industry for some additional relief. Is that still something that you're pushing for, or are those stimulus checks and the relief that's been enacted so far enough, along with the vaccinations?
Yeah, you know, Courtney, as you recall very well, as you just said, the beginning of the year, last year, as we headed into the pandemic, we worked very closely with Congress, with Treasury and the administration on a number of programs like the Main Street Lending Program, like the Emergency Disaster Recovery Loans, and of course the PPP. But, you know, the retail industry is so diverse and there are so many categories and segments. One of the challenges was there were some businesses doing extraordinarily well and others not as well. So I think the effort to really support consumers and small businesses is the right place to put it. And, you know, it's been an unprecedented level of support over the last year. And you alluded to it. There are lots of things in that $1.9 trillion. We'd like to see maybe more of that having been really directed at supporting small businesses. Nevertheless, the relief is going to be very critically important to making a full recovery. And we're looking forward to what we think is going to be a great year.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.